Welcome everyone, and we got a beautiful day here. We're here to welcome the signed dedication of the historical 1916 Lehigh Valley Railroad Roundhouse, right behind me. Thanks to the William Pomeroy Foundation and the research Timothy Munn did for the project, he was able to receive a grant for this historical transportation marker. This is the second Pomeroy Foundation marker Tim has researched and successfully achieved for the village of Manchester. Built in 1916, after 2 wood roundhouses burnt, a fireproof 30 bay with a 100-foot turntable to access all bays. This is the standing building today. Right behind me again. Closed in the early 70s by the railroad, it then was used a short time as a storage facility. The Manchester Village Board since 2007, under the direction of Mayor Nancy Johnson, which is right to my left, has been involved with town and county to find ways to move forward. The Labella Associates in 2007 estimated $1 million plus to demolish the building with land cleanup of 4.3 acres in excess of the same. Moving into 2019, Mayor Johnson with the board entering into phase 2 or phase 1 for a Manchester Yard site plan redevelopment strategy. And then again, 2020, phase 2 urban and community development program working capital grant. And then at the last phase, 2022, phase 3 Empire State Development Strategy Planning and Feasibility Study. This is the last to the date, but promising. As a retired railroad worker from a generation that knows how important the railroad history of Manchester is, I personally appreciate the historic marker. And with that, I'm gonna pass the mic on to Tate Colburn. He has something from Senator Pam Helming.
Go. And it looks like we have it working. So my name is Tate Colburn. I'm newly elected town supervisor. Took over for Dave Phillips here. I don't know how he talked me into it, but he's enjoying rabbit hunting and everything else now, so good for him. Senator Pam Helming couldn't be here today, so she asked if I would read this citation in celebration of today. New York State Senate citation presented to the Village of Manchester in honor of the Roundhouse Historical Marker dedication. Now therefore be it recognized that I, New York State Senator Pam A. Helming, congratulate the Village of Manchester on the dedication of the Pomeroy Historical Marker commemorating the historic Lehigh Valley Railroad Roundhouse in the Village of Manchester. Dated April 4th, 2026, the Honorable Pamela A. Helming, Senator 54th District. And this is the citation. Thank you.
Okay, at that point, we're going to have Tim Record come up here.
Here he is.
Jeff Gallahan had some breaking news for you. Nobody's going to be surprised, but the budget's going to be late, which is it's not Jeff's fault, as you know. So Jeff is enjoying a well-needed vacation in Florida at this point, a short vacation, and he sends this citation to the Village of Manchester from the New York State Assembly. In recognition of the historic marker dedication commemorating the Manchester Roundhouse, whereas the legislature takes great pride in recognizing a historic location and events in the communities I represent, and whereas in 1916, the Lehigh Valley Railroad constructed a roundhouse in the Village of Manchester as part of a major expansion and modernization effort of its freight transfer yard, a key hub in the movement movement of goods throughout the Northeast and the United States. Whereas this roundhouse served as a critical facility for the storage, maintenance, and operation of locomotives, supporting a broader complex that included a machine shop, boiler and engine houses, office buildings, an electrical power plant, and extensive rail infrastructure, including a coal trestle and a 100-foot turntable. And whereas the Manchester Freight Yard and Roundhouse were integral to the economic vitality of the region, contributed to transportation of anthracite coal and other goods, which provided enjoyment to generation of local residents. And whereas the Roundhouse facility served the community until 1972, when operations ceased, following a period of declining rail traffic, marked the end of an era in Manchester's industrial history. And whereas today the Manchester Roundhouse stands as a lasting symbol of the area's rich railroad heritage and its role in the growth and development of Ontario County and the surrounding regions. Whereas in recognition of this historical significance, the Preservation League of New York State designated the structure as one of the 7 to save in 2018, highlighting the importance of preserving this landmark for future generations. And whereas the placement of this historical marker by the William Pomeroy Foundation ensures that the story of the Manchester Roundhouse and its impact on the community will be remembered, celebrated, and shared with residents and visitors alike. And now there be resolved, proclaimed that I, Assemblyman Jeff Gallahan, do hereby recognize the presentation of the William Pomeroy Foundation historical marker at the Manchester Roundhouse and commend all those whose efforts have contributed to the preserving and honoring of this important piece of regional history. Dated April 4th, set in my hand as signature, Jeff Gallahan, 131st Assembly District.
Thank you, Tim. Now I'm going to introduce Tim Munn. He's a historian and a good friend of mine.
Thank you, Mike. First of all, I want to make a little disclaimer. I'll say this. I'm more of a sports historian, and there are a lot of stories out of Lehigh that became connected with the railroad. But I'm going to tell you, look, as I see people here today, we got Mrs. Liberati here, Dorothy Ann. I've interviewed her for stories. We got Nancy Johnson. And the other thing I want to say about railroad history, and I've seen some confusion sometimes on Facebook. People say, oh, check Tim on for railroad history. You want railroad history? You want the Tuttles. You want Mr. Parmalee here, Doug Parmalee. You want Tim Record. I know I'm going to leave somebody out like that. The Batashils, Sir Isaac Mosick being his father. Generational railroad people can tell you the nuts and bolts to this place. So it's really credit to all those people who had a chance. I was probably a little bit of a pain. I probably went and, hey, can I meet you in your living room, have a little conversation, and I probably overstayed too much of my welcome, but that was part of the good thing. One of the things I can tell you about, especially the sports history books with the railroad here, I can tell you about who Big Bill Segbers was a conductor, one of the best, one of the top players out of New York City, the A.G. Spalding Award winner in 1910. Ed DeFlyer Sr., who was a Lehigh Valley detective. I can tell you about Pig Iron Gershback, who was a blacksmith here at the Lehigh and used to pick up the front end of Model Ts. Then again, if you know his son, Danny, he can bench press like 600. So anyway, that's interesting. By the way, as far as a fact here, Mike and I are opposite political parties, but we've come together for the good of the people to do something like this because I think to commemorate history, and this is where the biggest fact for me has come down to. Teaching school for many years, kids in this town sometimes didn't have self-worth, what was actually here, the pride of their family. I'm big into genealogy, and happens so be that my son is a descendant of these great railroad workers. An Italian immigrant named Francisco Angelini was his great-grandfather, worked at the transfer on the West End. Joe Motlow was his great-great-uncle, worked in the oil house, was the oil house clerk on the Lehigh Valley for 53 years. His two great-aunts, Florence Angeline, God rest her soul, just died recently at almost made it to 199, and Louise G. Angeline She talked about the graphite cleaning the locomotives during World War II. So those are the stories that really, perked my ears up. But this marker here is really all these people before that I've had a collection of information that has contributed to this. This isn't just my doings here. One final thing I do want to say, and it's important, I know I hear various opinions on the Roundhouse and that. I grew up in Victor, New York, and we had oh, by the way, I'm going to forget something. I'm going to do it before I forget. I had to do several proposals for this marker. And I'll be quite honest with you, I was rejected about third or fourth time. And I don't want to let this go because this guy is a mentor of mine. I'm a coach. I went to the bullpen. I brought the closer in. So I went, got Dr. Preston Pierce, Ontario County Historical, head of the Ontario County History for the county. He was my 8th grade history teacher and a mentor of mine. So I said, look at Dr. Pierce, I'm stuck. Pomeroy wants, they're going to make you earn this grant. So I had to go to him, and he was, very gratified that he was able to help me on that. Now, going back to the Victor story, I don't want to make this too long-winded here, which I probably have already. You can blame the Irish in me for that. But anyways, back I was going to school in the 60s and 70s in Victor, and there was a special ed teacher named Bob Graham, and he did a special on Native Americans every year. And I had a friend named David Condon that lived on a dairy farm up on top of the hill. And every spring, they'd plow the fields. Well, I always went to Dave and say, hey, let's go look for arrowheads, like that. So I went up there and I saw these open fields. And whoever thought there would be this museum one day? Now, Mike is very optimistic. And he talks about what could be. And Triple X is showing, a design, what could be. And I know, there's a lot of things involved in that. But wouldn't it be nice, whoever thought Ganondagan would happen, maybe you got to be a little more optimistic, maybe something like this, because it is the true heritage of this town, and not just on a local level, but on a county, state, and national level. Anyways, I want to thank you for coming out today, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. That was really good. Now I want to introduce another good friend of mine, Doug Parmley. And I believe he is the only living locomotive engineer that has worked in the Manchester yard, and he has fueled locomotives here. And I want him to step up here and maybe just say a couple words, Doug. Good luck.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
When I went to work here in June of 1960, I used to fuel the locomotives over here on the other side of 3X white pickup truck, and I would put the locomotives a lot of times into the roundhouse and operate the turntable to do that. So it was a wonderful place to work. I worked under 4 different railroads, under 4 different management, and the Lehigh Valley was the best. And I worked with a lot of good men over here, and it was really a family affair. That's it. I don't want to tie your day up for any more. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, who would like to say, who would like to start a countdown so we can expose this new sign? Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it.
Wow, you sold my Christmas gift, didn't you?
Isn't that beautiful?
Does that mean you can charge admission
Okay, I just want to thank everyone for coming out today, and we are going to have a refreshment reception over at the auditorium of the Red Jacket Central School, and we'll meet you over there. Thank you. Right now. Following this, yes.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Jim.